The time is 12 o'clock. Here is the midday news. First, the top stories. Ogun worried over Assembly's delay in passing taxes harmonization bill. INEC targets registration of 80 million voters ahead of 2019 polls. Jonathan says 2014 National Confab report is antidote to Nigeria's crisis. Explosions rock Maiduguri, leaving several people dead and injured. In foreign, Russia accuses U.S. coalition forces of destroying Syrian city in fighting ISIS. Japan Prime Minister promises counter to North Korea's missile threat. Good afternoon. I am Chienye Egwuonwu, bringing you the news in details shortly. Ogun State government has expressed concern over the delay by the State House of Assembly in delaying the passage of a bill seeking to harmonize taxes to end multiple taxation in the state. The delay, according to the state government, is affecting businesses and its internal revenue generation. Commerce and Industry Commissioner Otumba Bimbo Ashiru, who expressed the concern while receiving in his office in Abeokuta the Assembly's Commerce, Investment and Trade Committee members who are monitoring the ministry's 2017 budget implementation. The passage of the tax harmonization bill, according to Ashiru, will ensure the State Commerce and Industry Ministry and other state government revenue-generating ministries, agencies, as well as the local governments and local council development areas (LCDAs) get their own shares of the harmonized tax.
For example, you know nothing of science, they will give you that balance of respect going forward. That's what I say. And the other one is that the one that comes to come out, you automatically the basic, the bill is giving to you, automatically it's not like the new Lagos, water and everything. So the bill don't pay your bill. It separates it and goes into your account.
The Commissioner also says the state government is amending some of its laws to accommodate newly initiated revenue items on registration of trade, artisan groups, and dredging fee in line with realities in the present business environment in the country. He explains that the ministry can only generate 469.17 million naira as at August 31, which represents just 16% of the 3 billion naira projected revenue for the outgoing fiscal year. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it is targeting the registration of 80 million voters ahead of the 2019 polls. About 3.2 million new voters have already been added to the 70 million registered ahead of the 2015 polls. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu made this known in Abuja at a round table organized by the European Union Electoral Follow-up Mission to Nigeria and West Africa. Yakubu explains that credible polls depends largely on voter register that is clean and acceptable. At the moment, INEC Chairman explains that 8 million permanent voter cards were awaiting collection nationwide. The National Executive Council of PDP will meet on Tuesday in Abuja ahead of the party's national convention coming up in December. Secretary of the National Caretaker Committee, Senator Ben Obi, made this known in a statement. Before the council's meeting, he says members of the National Caretaker Committee will meet with all aspirants for the post of PDP National Chairman, which is one of the major posts up for grabbing at the National Convention of the party. Those seeking the national chairmanship include Chief Bode George, Professor Tunde Adeniro, Chief Jimmy Agbaje, former Governor Gbenga Daniel, Chief Raymond Dopesi, as well as Professor Taurid Adedoja. The party had zoned the post to the South 3 regions, but Southwest is asserting itself for the major post. Former President Goodluck Jonathan says the report of the contentious 2014 Constitutional Conference is the antidote to the multiple challenges facing Nigeria. Jonathan, whose administration midwifed the 2014 report, contends that it is the best conference that Nigeria had ever convened. The former president, speaking on the issue at a birthday celebration of a senior advocate, Mike Ozekome in Abuja, says government could use the recommendations of the report to solve the problems of nationhood facing the country. Both President Muhammadu Buhari and the ruling party APC had rejected the report, and APC is holding a nationwide consultation to produce a report to solve the various agitations rocking the country, including restructuring, power devolution, and fiscal federalism. The report of the consultation is to be submitted to the National Assembly, which Buhari says is the only body empowered by the Constitution to undertake the restructuring of the country. National Identity Management Commission (NIMC) has enrolled 23.3 million Nigerians for the National Identification Number. The figure represents a major increase over 7 million registered in November 2015. The Commission Head of Corporate Communication, Loveday Ogbonna, who made this known, asked Nigerians who are yet to register to do so immediately to avoid rush. National identity card, according to him, will be required for services such as the passport issuance, banking service, insurance service, payment of taxes, and voter registration. He explains that funding crisis was delaying the enrolling of Nigerians in diaspora into the scheme. Multiple explosions have rocked Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, following fresh attacks by suicide bombers, leaving 16 people dead and 18 others injured. The attacks, launched at 3 different locations within the metropolis on Sunday night, caused panic in the city. The State Police Commissioner, Damian Chukwu, gives the casualty figure in a text message to newsmen in Maiduguri. According to the police chief, in the first attack, a suicide bomber blew himself up at Mona Garage General Area, killing 13 people and many injured. The second suicide bomber detonated the improvised explosive device inside an internally displaced camp, injuring several people, while the third attack took place along Damboru Ungala Road. 3 more died and 13 others injured in the second and third attacks. Meanwhile, Nigerian Air Force says its planes have attacked the structure of Boko Haram forces being constructed near Kunduga in Borno State. The Air Force spokesman, Air Commodore Olatukumo Adesanya, in a statement, says Alpha jets deployed for operation successfully destroyed the structures. He explains that the raid followed security reports that a large number of Boko Haram fighters were assembling in Daura on the outskirts of Kunduga. You're still listening to the Midday News on Rock City 101.9 FM. Up next, we bring you foreign, business, and sports news. Please do stay with us. In foreign, Russia has accused the US-led coalition of bombing the Syrian city of Raqqa off the face of the earth during the fight against the so-called Islamic State. A Russian Defense Ministry spokesman, Major General Igor Konashenkov, said the rains evoked the destruction of Dresden. He said the West now appeared to be hurrying to send financial aid to Raqqa as a way of covering up evidence of its crimes. The Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF), a US-backed alliance of Kurdish and Arab fighters, took Raqqa last week. Pictures suggest much of Raqqa is in ruins, and Russia compared it to the Allied destruction of the German city of Dresden in World War II. The US-led coalition says it tried to minimize risks to civilians. Russia has itself been accused of committing war crimes for its bombardment of Aleppo last year. Syrian activists say between 1,130 and 1,873 civilians were killed, and that many of the civilian casualties were the result of the intense US-led airstrikes that helped the SDF, an alliance of Kurdish and Arab militias, to advance. Catalan officials say they will not follow orders from the Spanish government as Madrid moves to reassert control over the region. The Foreign Affairs spokesman, Raul Romeva, says the central question was not about independence but about democracy. Spain's Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy announced on Saturday plans to sack Catalonia's regional government. A referendum outlawed by Spain was held on 1st October in Catalonia. The Catalan government, led by President Carles Puigdemont, said that of the 43% said to have been taking part, 90% were in favor of independence. Unionist parties, who won about 40% of the vote at the 2015 Catalan elections, boycotted the ballot, and many anti-independence supporters stayed away, arguing it was not valid. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has promised strong countermeasures against North Korea after winning a decisive victory in Sunday's election. Speaking at a press conference in Tokyo, Mr. Abe said his coalition's win was a vote of confidence from the public, and based on that, Japan will dramatically show countermeasures against the North Korea threat. He said he will discuss these measures with US President Donald Trump, who is visiting Japan next month, as well as with other world powers such as Russia and China. Mr. Abe had called an early election for a greater mandate to deal with crises, including the growing threat from North Korea, which has fired missiles over Japan in recent months. His ruling coalition has retained a two-thirds majority in parliament, and this paves the way for Mr. Abe to amend Japan's post-war pacifist constitution. In business, the presidency has secured a court order to take over all the bank accounts not linked to the Bank Verification Number (BVN). A federal high court in Abuja issued the order of freezing such accounts totaling about 15 million, according to the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System. Justice Minister Abubakar Malami had filed an application for an interim order compelling banks to disclose the identities of individuals and corporate bodies whose accounts are yet to be linked to the BVN. Justice Nnamdi Dingba, granting the ex parte motion by the presidency, rules that all the branches of banks with such accounts without BVN must advertise them in a national newspaper within 7 days and give owners 14 days to identify them. After such a notice, bank accounts not linked to BVN will be forfeited to the presidency. About 30.5 million out of 45.8 million accounts in the bank system are linked to the BVN. Finally, sports news. Lobby stars of Makurdi's striker and top masked man of the 2016-2017 NPFL campaign, Anthony Okpotu, has won the Rashidi Yakini Highest Goal Scorer Award. The Waffle Cup silver medalist edged out Stephen Ode, then of MFMFC, to the award, speaking to newsmen at the award celebration held amid fanfare at the Obafemi Awolowo Stadium in Ibadan. Okpotu rained poetry of adulation and admiration on the late Rashidi Yakini. He will also receive a monetary prize of 100,000 naira. Previous recipients were Godwin Obaje and Bola Salami for emerging the highest goal scorer of the NPFL in the 2015-2016 season and 2014-2015 season, respectively. That was the midday news, and just before we go, the major stories once again. Ogun worried over Assembly's delay in passing taxes harmonization bill. INEC targets registration of 80 million voters ahead of 2019 polls. Jonathan said the 2014 National Confab report was an antidote to Nigeria's crisis. Explosions rocked Maiduguri, leaving several people dead and injured. While in foreign, we also told you that Russia accused US coalition forces of destroying the Syrian city in fighting ISIS. And Japan Prime Minister promised to counter North Korea's missile threat. For more stories and to listen to us live, please log on to our website www.midday.ng. www.rockcityfmradio.com/live. Thank you very much for listening. I am Chienye Egwuonwu, and do have a fulfilling afternoon. Good afternoon.